Here with Nicholas Hollan, and you are you're a Democrat running for Cincinnati City Council, and we're here at the second rally in support of the people of Iran. And why did you feel that it was important to show up today here and show your support?
Sure. It's a rare opportunity to be able to stand with fellow activists who care about something bigger than themselves. We're all standing here promoting the universal truth of people want to be free across the board. And unfortunately, in Cincinnati, we can't directly affect the day-to-day situation in Iran, but what we can do is stand in solidarity. And when this came across by Facebook to me, I marked it on my calendar and said, this is someplace I want to be. And so to make a long story short, it's that idea of standing in unison and shouting at the top of your lungs about something bigger than yourself.
Mm-hmm. And there were probably just short of about 100 people here this afternoon. And at the first rally, there were noticeably some of the local media here, the local mainstream media here, a couple of television stations. The Enquirer, I know, did a piece on it. And this time, I looked around and really didn't see anybody here aside from myself, the Cincinnati Beacon, taking any notes, taking any photographs. What does that say to you about the local media here in Cincinnati?
I think it speaks to the bigger issue of the media as a whole has a short attention span. And immediately after the election, this was big news worldwide. And then as the days pass since that election, interest wanes, unfortunately, for the national media. But you can tell today that there's a lot of people who are still passionate, who still care, who still want this issue to receive the attention it deserves, because they're absolutely right. People are still in Iran fighting on a day-to-day basis for basic human rights. And to me, that's an issue that should always get as much attention as humanly possible.
Do you feel that there is... I guess let me phrase it. How do you feel about the level of civic participation in Cincinnati in general?
I think it's overwhelmingly positive. It's awfully hard to get anybody to do anything on a Saturday in potentially inclement weather.
Right,
Yet to have 100 people turn out for something that may not directly affect them, I think is fantastic. And I think it speaks that there are passions that people here in Cincinnati have, and it's a matter of being able to connect the people that have the passion with an event that speaks to that. And once you have those two things, I think you're typically going to have a pretty darn good turnout.
There's a lot of negative talk, especially when you watch the news. A lot of focus on negative crime stories and if it bleeds, it leads mentality. Do you feel it's important for Cincinnati and your candidacy to kind of harness the positive nature of people gathering to support the cause of, in this case, the freedom of people halfway around the globe, to try and help Cincinnati locally to change for the better?
Absolutely. It's funny you mention that. Every chance that I have to speak, one of the things I always talk about is community activism. Because at the end of the day, locally, nothing's going to change unless the people in Cincinnati want it to change. And they have to want it to change by not just casting their vote, but by casting their time, by investing themselves in whatever change they want to see. I don't want to get off on a soapbox here, but you're absolutely right. I mean, community activism to me is one of the most paramount important things that we can do as a community to talk about these issues that affect our day-to-day lives here locally and those big nation, international-wide issues that affect people somewhere else. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, any chance people get together in support of something, I think that's fantastic.
And I know one of the ways that a lot of people are showing support right now, well, not showing support, but engaging in civic participation is signing the NAACP's petition to oppose the streetcar, at least to get it on the ballot.
Right.
What's your feeling on the streetcar project?
Sure. I think the ballot initiative is poorly worded, specifically because the root of that issue was the streetcar. And unfortunately, the wording of that ballot initiative speaks to a broader issue of rail in general. And we have right now Strickland talking about connecting Cincinnati to Columbus to Cleveland. That would put that in jeopardy here locally. Obama has talked about making a high-speed rail connecting Cincinnati as a center, a hub, connecting to Chicago and other big cities, which would be a great benefit to Cincinnati. And this would put that in jeopardy. Overall, I'm a proponent of light rail in general. I think that's the way of the future. I think that's the way this is going to be going. But unfortunately, that particular ballot initiative puts a lot of that in jeopardy. And so that's why I've come out against that initiative, simply because it's too broad. It puts too many handcuffs on it.
And so you're not necessarily saying that you're opposed to getting it on the ballot and having people voice their opinion on the actual streetcar, but what you're opposed to is the actual language of the... Okay.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the ballot initiative, I mean, people have, and they did, have the right within our framework, within our system, to voice their opinion. If they don't like the streetcar, that's certainly, they have every right to make that known by signing the petition to put it on the ballot. I think, unfortunately, we're going down a dangerous path where we have so many ballot initiatives. We might end up in a situation where California is, where you can't do anything without a ballot initiative. I think we have to be...
Thank you for showing up.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Is it passionate?
Oh, you're fine.
No, you're fine.
I think it's a precarious path we're going down to. We have too many ballot initiatives. I think if people are passionate about something, then that's fine. They have every right to put that on the ballot.
I guess the last question, people gathering like this on Fountain Square, a tradition of utilizing a public space for people's voices to be heard. Are you concerned at all about public spaces in the city in general, and kind of it seems like they've diminished over the years, especially with 3CDC, a company taking over the operations of Fountain Square? Are you concerned about that at all, and how would you address that if you were on council?
Yeah, it's certainly an issue, and what it boils down to is wise land usage, of being able to zone things the way you need to zone them, so that you can have public areas like this. And we talk about Fountain Square specifically. There was a big hubbub, there was a big to-do about moving the fountain, and I think you see now how much better the flow here on Fountain Square is, that it's conducive to having demonstrations, and not just demonstrations, of just people gathering. And so I think you have to be wise when it comes to this type of endeavor, to make sure that what you are doing is setting it up for success. I mean, we could spend all this money and move the fountain, and if nobody came, then that was an awful decision. But because it works, and I think it's pretty clear that was wisely spent. So when it comes to other projects, I absolutely think we need more public spaces, and provided that there's the data there that they'll be utilized. So if A and B both follow, then I think then C is a logical choice. Yeah.
Are you worried at all about the corporate influence on people's voices in said public spaces? I know the Cincinnati Beacon has done some highlighting of issues where 3CDC has maybe kind of suppressed the voices of the people to kind of freely gather and speak their minds here on the square. Are you concerned about that aspect of it?
Well, it's funny you mention that. We came up here to just introduce myself. That's the first time candidate. That's the most important things I can do.
Right.
I let people know who the heck I am. And we came up here on Cinco de Mayo for that weekend, and we were told we weren't allowed to be here, and it was disappointing because this is a public area. But I also understand that it was a private event, and then because of that, it's like any other private. If somebody rents a space, then I think they're entitled to have that space, and organizations, demonstrators, the whole 9 yards, can certainly stand around the periphery. But to be right in the middle disrupts what someone paid money for. And since there's a transaction there, I understand that.
All right. And the best way that people in Cincinnati can find out more about you and your candidacy?
Right to my website. It's just my name, www.nicholashollan.com.
All right.